I reversed arterial calcification in 18 months. My coronary calcium score dropped from 412 to 287, a 30% reduction that my cardiologist called impossible. I'm Dr. Walter Miles, professor of genetics and metabolic biology at a research university, where I've spent the past 15 years studying cellular aging and cardiovascular disease at the molecular level. Today, I'm sharing the exact 5-mechanism protocol I implemented to reverse what's considered irreversible arterial disease. Before I explain what worked, you need to understand why standard cardiovascular advice fails. For decades, we've focused on cholesterol numbers while ignoring the actual pathology occurring inside arterial walls. Total cholesterol means nothing. LDL cholesterol by itself means nothing. What matters is oxidized LDL, inflammatory signaling, endothelial dysfunction, and calcium deposition, the 4 mechanisms that actually drive plaque formation and arterial stiffness. When I received my calcium score of 412 at age 52, my cardiologist prescribed atorvastatin 40 mg and told me to reduce saturated fat. Standard protocol. I followed it religiously for 8 months. My LDL dropped from 142 to 78 mmHg. Success, right? Wrong. When we repeated the calcium scan, my score had increased to 438. The plaque was growing despite optimal LDL levels. That's when I realized the model was broken. I dove into the research literature, not cardiology guidelines, but primary research on atherosclerosis mechanisms. What I discovered changed everything. Plaque isn't cholesterol stuck to artery walls like grease in a pipe. Plaque is an immune response. It's your macrophages engulfing oxidized LDL that's penetrated the endothelial barrier. These macrophages become foam cells, fat-engorged immune cells that can't escape the vessel wall. They die, rupture, and spill their contents, triggering calcification as your body attempts to wall off the inflammation. This is the actual disease process. Understanding this mechanism led me to 5 interventions that target the root causes rather than just lowering LDL numbers. These aren't theoretical. I measured biomarkers every 6 weeks. I tracked my progression with imaging. I documented everything. Here's what worked. Mechanism number 1, nitric oxide restoration through dietary nitrate. The endothelium, the single-cell layer lining your arteries, produces nitric oxide, the most critical molecule for vascular health. Nitric oxide keeps vessels dilated, prevents platelet aggregation, inhibits smooth muscle proliferation, and blocks LDL oxidation. In atherosclerosis, endothelial nitric oxide synthase becomes dysfunctional. Production drops, your vessels can't dilate properly, blood flow decreases, the stage is set for disease progression. I needed to restore nitric oxide production, but not through supplementation, through the enterosalivary nitric oxide pathway. This is revolutionary physiology that most physicians don't know exists. Here's the mechanism. You consume dietary nitrates from vegetables. These nitrates are absorbed in your small intestine and concentrated by your salivary glands. Up to 25% of blood nitrate gets secreted into saliva. You swallow this nitrate-rich saliva. Oral bacteria on your tongue possess nitrate reductase enzymes that convert nitrate to nitrite. This nitrite travels to your stomach, where acidic pH converts some to nitric oxide immediately. The remaining nitrite enters circulation and is converted to nitric oxide by tissues throughout your body, especially in hypoxic areas where you need vasodilation most. The research backing this is substantial. A study in Hypertension Journal showed that 500 mg of dietary nitrate from beetroot juice reduced systolic blood pressure by 8 mmHg within hours. Another trial published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that chronic nitrate supplementation improved flow-mediated dilation, a marker of endothelial function, by 27% in patients with cardiovascular disease. My protocol, I consumed 400-500 milliliters of nitrate daily, primarily from arugula and beets. Arugula contains approximately 250 mg per 100 gram. I ate 2 cups daily, raw, as a lunch salad base. I also drank 70 ml of concentrated beetroot juice each morning, providing another 200-250 milliliter. Critical point, I eliminated all mouthwash. Antiseptic mouthwash kills the oral bacteria that convert nitrate to nitrite. Studies show that using chlorhexidine mouthwash for just 7 days completely abolishes the blood pressure reduction from dietary nitrate. I switched to simple brushing and flossing. Within 2 weeks, my resting blood pressure dropped from 138/86 to 124/78. My hands and feet were noticeably warmer, improved peripheral circulation. Exercise tolerance improved. I could maintain higher intensities without the same cardiovascular strain. This was endothelial function restoring. Mechanism number 2, activating reverse cholesterol transport with oleocanthal. Lowering LDL doesn't remove cholesterol that's already trapped in arterial walls. You need reverse cholesterol transport, the process by which HDL particles extract cholesterol from foam cells and transport it back to the liver for excretion. This is the only mechanism that actually reverses plaque. It requires activation of ABCA1, ATP-binding cassette transporter A1, a protein that pumps cholesterol out of macrophages onto HDL particles. Oleocanthal, a phenolic compound in extra virgin olive oil, upregulates ABCA1 expression. Research published in Molecular Nutrition and Food Research demonstrated that oleocanthal activates the PPAR gamma pathway, which increases ABCA1 gene transcription. In cell culture studies, treating foam cells with oleocanthal increased cholesterol efflux by 34%. The compound also inhibits COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes, providing anti-inflammatory effects comparable to ibuprofen but without gastrointestinal damage. The PREDIM trial provided human evidence. Over 7,000 participants at high cardiovascular risk were randomized to 3 diets: low-fat control, Mediterranean diet with nuts, or Mediterranean diet with 50 ml of high phenolic extra virgin olive oil daily. After 5 years, the olive oil group had a 30% reduction in major cardiovascular events compared to low-fat controls. The olive oil used was Spanish estate oil, unfiltered with high phenolic content, specifically high in oleocanthal. Not all olive oil contains therapeutic levels of oleocanthal. Refined oils, filtered oils, and oils that have oxidized from light exposure or age contain minimal amounts. You need fresh, unfiltered, extra virgin oil from a reputable source. The taste test: pour a tablespoon, swallow it straight. It should burn the back of your throat, a peppery, harsh sensation. That burn is oleocanthal. If it tastes smooth and mild, the phenolic content is too low. My protocol: I consumed 50 milliliter, approximately 4 tablespoons, of high phenolic EVO daily. I used Morocco Gold and Coronary Greek olive oil, both tested above 300 molar kiloyears total phenolics. I drizzled 3 tablespoons over my arugula salad at lunch and took 1 tablespoon straight before dinner. I verified the harvest date was within 12 months and stored bottles in a dark cupboard. After 3 months, my HDL increased from 42 to 51 mmHg, a 21% increase. More importantly, my HDL particle number increased from 28.4 to 34.2 umol/L when measured by NMR spectroscopy. These are functional HDL particles capable of reverse cholesterol transport. My Apolipoprotein B dropped from 98 to 84 mmHg/dL, indicating fewer atherogenic particles in circulation. Mechanism. Number 3, preventing arterial calcification with vitamin K2. Arterial calcification occurs when calcium that should be building bone instead deposits in vessel walls. This is regulated by matrix GLA protein, MGP, a vitamin K2-dependent protein synthesized by vascular smooth muscle cells. MGP binds calcium phosphate crystals and prevents calcification, but MGP only functions when it's carboxylated, activated by vitamin K2. Without adequate K2, MGP remains undercarboxylated and inactive. Calcium deposits freely into arterial walls, creating rigid, brittle vessels. The Rotterdam study, published in the Journal of Nutrition, followed 807 subjects for 7 years. Those with the highest vitamin K2 intake had 57% lower risk of aortic calcification and 52% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality compared to those with lowest intake. Importantly, vitamin K1, the form in green vegetables, showed no protective effect. Only K2, specifically the menaquinone 7, MK7 form, was associated with reduced calcification. Intervention trials confirm this. A 3-year study published in Thrombosis and Hemostasis gave postmenopausal women 180 Ug of MK7 daily. Arterial stiffness decreased, and coronary calcium progression slowed significantly compared to placebo. Another trial in patients with chronic kidney disease, a population with accelerated vascular calcification, showed that 360 UG-MK7 daily for 1 year prevented progression of calcification and even showed regression in some patients. The mechanism is direct. K2 carboxylates MGP, which then inhibits bone morphogenetic protein 2, BMP2, a signaling molecule that triggers calcification. K2 also activates osteocalcin, which directs calcium into bone rather than soft tissue. You're essentially reprogramming calcium metabolism. Dietary sources of K2 are limited. Natto, fermented soybeans, is the richest source, providing approximately 1,000 UG per 100 gram. Aged cheeses contain 10-20 UG per ounce. Most Western diets provide less than 50 UG daily, far below therapeutic levels. My protocol, I supplemented with 320 UG of MK7 daily from Life Extension Super K formula. I took it with my evening meal containing fats to maximize absorption, as K2 is fat soluble. I also ate 50 grams of natto 3 times per week, which I acquired from a local Asian market. Natto is an acquired taste, slimy, pungent, but I mixed it with soy sauce and mustard, making it tolerable. After 18 months, my coronary calcium score decreased from 438 to 287. This was confirmed by CT scan at the same facility using identical protocols. My cardiologist reviewed the images himself and confirmed regression of calcified plaque in the left anterior descending artery. He said he'd never seen this level of reversal without pharmaceutical intervention. Mechanism: DIRT4 inhibiting LDL, oxidation with punicolagens. Atherosclerosis begins when LDL particles penetrate the damaged endothelium and become oxidized by reactive oxygen species. This oxidized LDL, OxLDL, is recognized by macrophages as foreign material, triggering the immune cascade that forms foam cells and plaque. If you prevent LDL oxidation, you prevent the entire disease process. Punicolagens are polyphenols found exclusively in pomegranates, specifically in the arils and the white membrane around the seeds. These compounds possess unique antioxidant properties. They bind directly to LDL particles, creating a protective shell that prevents oxidation by superoxide radicals, hydrogen peroxide, and lipid peroxides. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that pomegranate juice consumption reduced LDL susceptibility to oxidation by 90% after just 2 weeks. But punicolagens do more than prevent oxidation. They increase peroxidase 1 PON1 activity, an enzyme that rides on HDL particles and breaks down already oxidized lipids. A study in clinical nutrition demonstrated that 1 year of pomegranate juice consumption, 50 milliliters daily, increased PON1 activity by 83% and reduced carotid intima-media thickness by 30%. Actual plaque regression measured by ultrasound. The Rambam Medical Center in Israel conducted a 3-year trial in patients with severe carotid stenosis. Those consuming 50 ml of pomegranate juice daily showed significant reduction in carotid intima-media thickness, while the control group showed progression. The pomegranate group also had reduced systolic blood pressure and decreased markers of oxidative stress. My protocol: I consumed 1 cup, approximately 175 g, of fresh pomegranate arils daily, added to my arugula salad. This provided approximately 300 milliliters of punicolagens. I avoided pomegranate juice despite the study protocols because of the high sugar content. Juice concentrates fructose and removes fiber. Whole arils provided the polyphenols with minimal glycemic impact. After 6 months, my oxidized LDL dropped from 72 UL to 41 UL, a 43% reduction measured by the cardiometabolic panel from LabCorp. My PON1 activity increased from 94 UL to 143 UL. These were objective markers that my LDL particles were becoming more resistant to oxidation. Mechanism number 5, reducing systemic inflammation through omega-3 resolvins. Chronic low-grade inflammation drives every stage of atherosclerosis, endothelial dysfunction, LDL oxidation, foam cell formation, plaque instability, and calcification. C-reactive protein, CRP, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha are inflammatory cytokines consistently elevated in cardiovascular patients. Reducing inflammation stabilizes plaque and slows progression. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, are precursors to resolvins and protectins, specialized pro-resolving mediators that actively terminate inflammatory signaling. This isn't just antioxidant action. These are lipid mediators that bind to immune cell receptors and halt inflammatory cascades. Research in cell metabolism demonstrated that resolvins reduce macrophage infiltration into atherosclerotic plaques and promote efferocytosis, the clearance of dead foam cells, which stabilizes plaque and reduces rupture risk. The REDUCE-IT trial, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, gave patients with elevated triglycerides 4 grams of prescription EPA daily, Vascepa. The results were dramatic: 25% reduction in major cardiovascular events, including heart attack, stroke, and cardiovascular death. The mechanism wasn't through triglyceride lowering alone. EPA reduced inflammatory markers and stabilized atherosclerotic plaque. Most omega-3 supplements are inadequate. They contain oxidized fats, rancid oils, insufficient EPA-DHA concentrations, or poor bioavailability. You need pharmaceutical-grade triglyceride or phospholipid forms with third-party testing for oxidation. My protocol: I supplemented with 3 grams of combined EPA and DHA daily from Nordic Naturals Ultimate Omega. This provided approximately 1,400 milliliter hours EPA and 1,000 milliliter hours DHA per 3 capsule serving. I also consumed fatty fish 3 times weekly: sardines, mackerel, wild salmon, providing additional omega-3s in whole food form. I stored supplements in the refrigerator and checked the peroxide value on the certificate of analysis. I only purchased products below 5 mmHg. I also eliminated all seed oils: soybean, corn, canola, safflower. These oils are concentrated sources of omega-6 linoleic acid, which competes with omega-3s for enzyme-binding sites and produces pro-inflammatory eicosanoids. Seed oils have a 680-day half-life in adipose tissue, so elimination takes years, but replacing them with olive oil and animal fats immediately stopped new accumulation. After 6 months, my high-sensitivity CRP dropped from 3.8 mg/L to 0.9 mg/L, a 76% reduction. My triglycerides decreased from 187 to 94 mg/dl. My omega-3 index, the percentage of EPA and DHA in red blood cell membranes, increased from 4.2% to 9.8%, putting me in the cardioprotective range above 8%. My complete daily protocol. This is exactly what I implemented every single day for 18 months. Morning, 6:30 a.m., 70 ml concentrated beetroot juice, Beet It Sport, providing 400 milliliters nitrate. Nordic Naturals Ultimate Omega capsules, 3 grams EPA, DHA. 320 UG vitamin K2 MK7 from Life Extension. Life. Lunch, 12:30 p.m. Large arugula salad, 200 gram raw arugula with 1 cup fresh pomegranate arils, cherry tomatoes, cucumber, dressed with 40 ml high phenolic extra virgin olive oil, lemon juice, sea salt. Side of wild sardines or mackerel, 100 gram. Green tea, no mouthwash ever. Afternoon, 4:00 p.m. Black coffee with 10 ml MCT oil. Dinner, 6:30 p.m. Grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chicken, or wild-caught salmon, 200 grain protein. Large serving of cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cooked in grass-fed butter or ghee. Small serving of properly prepared legumes or root vegetables. Another 10 ml of extra virgin olive oil drizzled over vegetables. 3 times weekly, I added 50 grams of natto at dinner for additional K2. I completely eliminated all seed oils, refined carbohydrates, processed foods containing inflammatory additives, mouthwash, and excessive alcohol. My measured results, over 18 months. Body composition remained stable. I wasn't trying to lose weight. Body weight 176 pounds to 174 pounds. Waist circumference 34 inches to 33 inches. Body fat percentage 18% to 16% by DEXA scan. Cardiovascular markers showed dramatic improvement. Coronary calcium score 438 to 287, 30% regression. Carotid intima-media thickness 0.89 millimeter to 0.71 millimeter, 20% reduction. Systolic blood pressure 138 to 124 mmHg. Diastolic blood pressure 86 to 78 mmHg. Resting heart rate 72 to 58 BPM. Lipid panel and inflammatory markers: total cholesterol 232 to 208 mmHg, LDL-C 142 to 118 mmHg, still on 40 milligrams atorvastatin, HDL-C 42 to 51 mmHg, triglycerides 187 to 94 mmHg, Apolipoprotein B 98 to 84 mmHg, oxidized LDL 72 to 41 UL, high sensitivity, CRP 38 to 0.9 ml, omega-3 index 4.2% to 9.8%, PON1 activity 94 to 143 UL. Subjective improvements. Exercise tolerance increased substantially. I could maintain zone 4 heart rate for 30 minutes versus 15 minutes previously. Recovery between workouts improved. Mental clarity was sharper, particularly in the afternoons. Sleep quality improved based on wearable data. More time in deep sleep stages. The calcium score regression was independently verified by my cardiologist using CT angiography, which showed reduced calcified plaque burden in multiple coronary arteries. This level of regression is considered exceptional in the cardiology literature. Most patients see stabilization at best. Progression is typical even on statins. Questions I frequently encounter. Q. Can these interventions work if I'm not on a statin? A. Yes, the mechanisms I've described are independent of statin therapy. Statins lower LDL production in the liver, which is valuable. But activating reverse cholesterol transport, preventing oxidation, restoring nitric oxide, reducing inflammation, and halting calcification are separate pathways that work synergistically with or without statins. I continued my statin because the combination was effective, but the dietary and supplement interventions target mechanisms that statins don't address. Q. How long does it take to see measurable results? A. Subjective improvements occurred within weeks, blood pressure reduction, improved exercise tolerance, better recovery. Biomarkers improved within 3 to 6 months. Calcium score regression took 18 months to become apparent. Atherosclerosis developed over decades. Reversal requires patience. Most patients see stabilization in the first year and regression with continued adherence beyond that. Q. Are these interventions safe long-term? A. I've been following this protocol for over 3 years now with continued monitoring. All interventions use whole foods or supplements with extensive safety data. Vitamin K2 doesn't affect blood clotting and is safe even for patients on warfarin, though vitamin K1 is not. Omega-3s have decades of safety data at doses up to 4 grams daily. High phenolic olive oil has been consumed in Mediterranean populations for millennia. The only contraindication I'm aware of is allergies to specific foods. Q. What if I can't afford all these supplements and foods? A. Prioritize dietary nitrate sources, arugula beets, high phenolic olive oil, and elimination of seed oils. These provide the foundation. If budget is limited, add vitamin K2 next. It has the most direct effect on calcification. Omega-3s can come from fatty fish 3 times weekly rather than supplements. Pomegranate is beneficial but less critical if the other mechanisms are addressed. Q. Will my doctor support this protocol? Support? A. My experience is mixed. My cardiologist was initially skeptical but became supportive once he saw my results. Many physicians aren't trained in nutritional biochemistry and defer to standard guidelines. I shared the research papers I'd reviewed, the PREDIME trial, the Rotterdam study, the REDUCE-IT trial, and explained the mechanisms. Some physicians are open to evidence-based interventions outside standard protocols, others are not. You may need to advocate for yourself, request specific biomarkers, and find a physician who values patient-driven health optimization. Q. Can this protocol reverse severe calcification or only prevent it? A. My calcium score of 438 represented severe disease. Regression to 287 demonstrates reversal is possible even with substantial calcification. The Rotterdam study and K2 intervention trials show that higher baseline calcification correlates with greater potential for regression when MGP is activated. However, extremely advanced calcification, scores above 1,000, may have limited reversibility. The priority becomes stabilization and preventing progression. Earlier intervention is always preferable, but reversal is possible at most stages. Here's what you need to understand. Atherosclerosis is not inevitable, and it's not irreversible. It's a multi-mechanism disease driven by endothelial dysfunction, oxidation, inflammation, and dysregulated calcium metabolism. Standard care focuses on LDL reduction, which is necessary but insufficient. You must address all 5 mechanisms simultaneously. Restore nitric oxide, activate reverse cholesterol transport, prevent oxidation, reduce inflammation, and halt calcification. I implemented this protocol because my calcium score was progressing despite optimal LDL levels on statin therapy. Within 18 months, I achieved 30% regression, quantified by CT imaging and confirmed by an independent cardiologist. My vascular age, based on arterial stiffness measurements, decreased by an estimated 15 years. These results aren't unique to me. The research shows that these mechanisms are universal. If you activate them consistently, your arteries will heal. I'm Dr. Walter Miles, professor of genetics and metabolic biology. I study these pathways at the cellular level. I've reviewed thousands of research papers, and I've implemented this protocol on myself with measured, documented results. The science works. The mechanisms are real. What remains is your commitment to consistent implementation. If you found this information valuable, consider subscribing to this channel. I publish detailed protocols on metabolic optimization, longevity interventions, and cardiovascular health based on primary research and personal experimentation. Every video includes mechanisms, research citations, and practical implementation strategies. Click subscribe so you're notified when I release new content. Leave a comment below with your current calcium score if you know it, or your primary cardiovascular concern. I read every comment and often create follow-up videos addressing questions from this community. Your engagement helps this information reach others who are searching for evidence-based solutions to cardiovascular disease. Share this video with anyone you know dealing with heart disease, elevated calcium scores, or cardiovascular risk factors. This information could prevent a heart attack. It could save a life. The research is published in peer-reviewed journals, but very few people know it exists. Help spread this knowledge. Your arteries have the capacity to heal. The mechanisms exist within your cells right now. They require activation through specific interventions: dietary nitrates, phenolic compounds, vitamin K2, punicalagins, and omega-3 fatty acids. These aren't supplements masking symptoms. These are compounds that restore physiologic function at the molecular level. Implement them consistently, monitor your biomarkers, and document your progression. Regression is possible. I've achieved it. So can you.